There are dates we remember and dates that redefine a nation. For the state of Kuwait, May 16th is both. It is not merely a political anniversary, it is the day when the role of women transformed from aspiration to achievement, a turning point that reshaped the country's identity, its voice, and its image. On this day in 2005, the National Assembly voted to grant Kuwaiti women the right to vote and to run for public office. The decision passed with 35 votes in favor, and behind it stood the voice of leadership. Then Prime Minister Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, may Allah rest his soul, addressed Parliament, advocating for justice, equality, and the full inclusion of women in political life. But the milestone was not his alone. It was under the reign of the late Emir Sheikh Jaber Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, may Allah rest his soul, that Kuwaiti women were officially granted their political rights. It was not a gift. It was the culmination of decades of advocacy, courage, and determination. A journey that began in classrooms, in homes, in quiet persistence. 4 years later, in 2009, history took a new form. 4 Kuwaiti women secured their seats in parliament. Their election was not symbolic, it was systemic. They participated in legislation, led national debates, and helped shift the expectation of what leadership looks like. But the transformation that unfolded in Kuwait wasn't witnessed in Kuwait alone. From the heart of Kuwait, inside embassies that live and work among its people, female ambassadors watched these changes with admiration. They engaged with them, they celebrated them. This is not a story of politics, it's a story of presence, of progress, of perseverance, of Kuwaiti women in the eyes of the world. When a right is granted, it does not create impact unless it turns into action. In Kuwait, the political empowerment of women was never just a symbolic gesture. It became a visible, measurable reality. In 2005, after years of advocacy and activism, Kuwaiti women were granted the right to vote and run for office. This milestone was the culmination of persistent efforts by women's rights advocates, including large demonstrations and campaigns that highlighted the demand for gender equality in political participation. 4 years later, that right turned into representation. In a historic moment in 2009, 4 women were elected to parliament. Dr. Rola Dashti, an economist and development advocate. Dr. Masouma Al-Mbarak, Kuwait's first female cabinet minister. Dr. Asil Al-Awadi, and Dr. Salwa Al-Jassar, both esteemed academics. Their presence was not merely about inclusion, it was about participation and influence. They joined legislative sessions, led parliamentary committees, debated national policies, standing at the center of public decision-making. No longer marginalized, women moved from the sidelines to the very heart of the political arena. Empowerment, in this case, was not a slogan. It was a state-level commitment, a shift in institutional culture, and a societal rebalancing that reflected a new era in Kuwaiti governance.
Kuwaiti women have been playing a prominent role in the society throughout the history of the country. The European Union appreciates the progress of Kuwait with regards to women's empowerment in areas such as women's economic empowerment or the increased representation of women in senior government positions. The abolition of Article 153 of the Penal Code has been also a very positive step. The legal marriage age was raised to 18 years for girls and boys recently. There are many examples of how Kuwait is moving forward. As the European Union ambassador in Kuwait, over the past 2 years, I have been proud to see the efforts of many inspiring women across all sectors of the Kuwaiti society, as well as many supportive men in advancing women's empowerment at different levels.
So I think a lot of people think back to the milestone of 2005 when women were able to vote in Kuwait and also to stand for elected office. And of course, then we saw the first of the female ministers. I think now we're up to the 17th female minister in the Kuwaiti government. So we can see how people have blazed a trail and built on the achievements of other generations as time has gone on.
I've seen that many women here in Kuwait, they don't have any problem, any obstacle to work in any kind of field, maybe except in the politics, because time to time I've seen that on the parliament, for example, in the political sector, only few women of Kuwait. Unlike in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the member of parliament now 580 people in the National Assembly, and almost 30%, about 128 are women MPs. So, but I've seen that no obstacle for women here in Kuwait.
The efforts that went into fighting for political rights, for gaining political rights, the right to stand for election, the right to vote, I think that these are it's the result, of something that we see every day in women across Kuwait. The same energy, the same drive that it took to gain those rights is really what we see, I think, across the spectrum, from politics to media to the private sector to academia. And I've been so lucky to meet so many really impressive women in Kuwait. And I think that the environment also facilitates that, because so many women that I speak to here, when they talk about what has also helped them achieve, they talk about the ecosystem, they talk about their families, their fathers, brothers, husbands, they talk about the example set, by the government in encouraging women to fully participate in society. So I think that Kuwait has also been very successful in creating an ecosystem that supports women.
The European Union, along with the wider international community, is committed to supporting and advancing the involvement of women, including women human rights defenders and peace builders, in peace and security processes at all levels. Throughout history, women have been instrumental in conflict resolution and peace building, even if their contributions have frequently been overlooked or undervalued. Women, from diplomats, civil society activists, women in uniforms to everyday women, can bring unique perspectives, empathy and skills to negotiation table, promoting inclusivity and bridging divides. As an ambassador and as a woman, I believe that ensuring women's representation in diplomacy contributes to building better, more peaceful and more inclusive partnerships around the world. And that involves also relations between European Union and Kuwait.
Behind each political role is a bedrock of knowledge, established through years of learning, growth, and intellectual refinement. The state of Kuwait's educational landscape, spanning public, private, local, and international institutions, served a pivotal role in the emergence of women's empowerment. Higher education, scholarship initiatives, and global academic collaborations helped shape a generation of women who became confident, self-reliant, and primed for public service roles. And from those platforms emerged voices that would later lead in government, civil society, media, and politics. In 1993, Dr. Faiza Al-Khrafi broke new ground as the first woman in Kuwait to hold a role equivalent to the rank of minister when she was appointed president of Kuwait University. As the first woman to lead a prominent university in the Middle East, she set a historic precedent. During her tenure until 2002, She led the institution through post-Gulf War reconstruction, overseeing its expansion to over 20,000 students. Dr. Moulay Mahmoud, a former Minister of Education and a pioneer in management education, helped reform higher education and champion women's leadership in academia. And across generations, women like Lulu Al-Qatami channeled education into activism, turning classrooms into catalysts for societal change. Today, Kuwaiti women serve as university professors, diplomats, entrepreneurs, and policymakers, proof that education is not only a right, but a launchpad for leadership. From school desks to seats at decision-making tables, their journey reflects the transformative power of knowledge when matched with opportunity.
Kuwaiti women have full access to good education, starting from primary school, continuing from postgraduate schools. Recently, I was in the graduation ceremony, awards ceremony of outstanding women, outstanding students in Kuwait University. And on the stage, of course, the ceremony was very high level and with the gracious participation of Small Amir. But overall, what was most touching for me to see more than half of the outstanding graduates, yani, top students in the university graduated were women, more than men. So this shows something. We have here tangible examples going on. Just last year, there was this Forbes magazine's latest editions. They concentrated on, again, strongest woman, the most powerful woman in the business in the Gulf area. And so in the Kuwait, there were, if I'm not mistaken, 10 women from Kuwait. And they are in the top positions in very important institutions, from engineering to banking and finance and to oil sector. We have so many women in decision-making mechanisms in Kuwait.
So the UK and Kuwait work together very closely on many different fronts. We do a lot around education. We also do a lot around training. Continuous professional development is a term that many people will be familiar with. So we do a lot of training of people who are quite advanced in their career, but also women who maybe are closer to the beginning of their career in many different fields to help women in Kuwait to fulfill their true potential. One example of this is the recent MOU that we signed with Kuwait Civil Service Commission. So we're doing quite a lot of leadership training with men and women from a number of different government bodies and public sector organisations. When I have contact with the different cohorts, it's really interesting to hear sometimes the different questions that I hear from male employees and from female employees, different things on people's minds, sometimes different barriers holding them back, but also different levels of ambition and different ideas to bring to the party. And what I really hope will happen more in the future is that men, women, whoever, just talented people rise to the forefront and can get promoted, can lead and can fulfill their true potential. And if the different collaborations across education, science, research and development, whatever it is, between the UK and Kuwait, if together we can support each other to try and advance people who have a lot of potential and ambition, I think that would be great. It would be wonderful to see more women going as far as they want to go and not have any obstacles to hold them back.
There are some incredible Kuwaiti women who have studied in Australia, and we feature them regularly on my embassy's Instagram. Leaders in medicine, leaders in science, leaders in sport, and it's been a real joy to follow their journeys, and I'm genuinely inspired by all that they've done for their countries. One priority of my embassy is trying to increase the networking opportunities for those women who have studied in Australia, to build links between them, but also to focus on the institutional links between universities in Kuwait and in Australia, and the alumni are a key connecting point. they're the best ambassadors for both Kuwait and for Australia because they know both our countries so well. So that's an area where we're working a lot in, and an area where I'm really excited to strengthen the links between Australia and Kuwait in education.
I think there's lots of areas. I think all of the areas where we work together, whether it's trade, whether it's culture, whether it's on policy and security, defense, I think these are all areas, where we can work together. And I think, again, the more inclusive we are, the more we work together, the better the policy and the better the cooperation we can have. And for example, one of the areas we work is inclusive business, to make sure that women business leaders, business owners have the tools that they need. One of the things I see that's really great here, and it's happening a lot in Canada, is mentoring. Men and women, mentoring, younger generations of women in all sectors. I think that's extremely important, and we can continue doing that. I think one area which is of real importance in Canada and Kuwait at the moment, and the whole world, is disinformation. We're seeing that as a real obstacle to a lot of women wanting to get into politics. They are seeing women being, attacked online. And they're seeing, a lot of challenges with getting involved in politics, and that's the same, in Canada or Kuwait. So I think that working together to try to combat misinformation, to try to help women who are interested in politics develop the skills and the tools and the networks that they need, I think that's incredibly important. That's something that we can do together, because again, I think that we will all be strengthened by having more women participating. And I think it's clear that the commitment, is here within Kuwaiti society and in the leadership for more women's participation in all sectors. And so I look forward to seeing that grow now and into the future.
Leadership is not granted, it is earned. And Kuwaiti women have proven they seek more than presence. They seek to make an impact. In decision-making circles, national dialogues, and public life, they have demonstrated their voice, their ability to lead, negotiate, and propose meaningful alternatives. Dr. Mahsouma Al-Mbarak, appointed in 2005 as Kuwait's first female cabinet minister, paved the way for women's participation at the highest levels of government. Dr. Rola Dashti, an economist and former parliamentarian, served as Minister of State of Planning and Development Affairs, contributing significantly to national policy. Maryam Al-Aqil, in 2019, became the first female Minister of Finance in Kuwait and the Gulf region, overseeing the country's fiscal strategies and economic reforms. But they are not alone. These women were among a broad wave of Kuwaiti leaders who stepped forward into ministries, public agencies, diplomacy, education, and civil society, redefining what leadership looks like across the nation. These milestones did not emerge in isolation. They were the result of accumulated experience, growing societal trust, and opportunities that were seized, not merely offered. What distinguishes the Kuwaiti experience is that women entered the public sphere not through exceptional measures, but through the state's own institutional framework, making their presence an integral part of the national landscape.
There are lots of policies going on in Kuwait regarding increasing and enhancing women's power and capacity in daily progress of Kuwait. We see a percentage of women empowerment is increasing day by day, and it's already higher than in many countries. Kuwait is #1 country allocating space for women in decision-making mechanisms and in the workforce participation, #1 in the Gulf, and in the region has good number and percentage that's increasing, and globally also Kuwaiti women in are in very good position, alhamdulillah. But it's always for us, for women diplomats, for women who are seeking the benefit of other women, it's not enough. It's not enough, but what we see in Kuwait is very good indeed.
And you're seeing more Kuwaiti women stepping forward and leading from the front in, for example, the business world. I think it's remarkable that in the Forbes 2025 list of most powerful businesswomen in the Middle East, 6 of those women are Kuwaitis. And we're also seeing Kuwaiti women much more visible in a range of different sectors. More women are now joining the police. We're seeing more women in the judiciary and also joining the Emiri Guard.
Kuwait is a society deeply rooted in its culture, heritage, and traditions. Yet, Kuwaiti women have never been on the periphery of that identity. They have always been at its core. Across generations, women in Kuwait have embraced public life without compromising their. When they stepped into positions of influence, they did not shed their values. They carried them forward, integrating heritage into modern engagement. In parliament, in civil society, and in education, they remained firmly connected to their environment, representing it, not rejecting it. This is what made their experience uniquely balanced: no break from tradition and no retreat from participation. For this, they earned lasting respect, especially from societies that value pluralism and understand the strength of context, continuity, and rooted progress.
Kuwait has such a unique and proud and long history of women's participation, going back to the early days when so many men went out to sea and the women were left to play really prominent roles, whether it be in business, family affairs, in society. And I think that historical foundation is still evident today. Women are a vital part of society in Kuwait, an active part, and play a very prominent and important role across the board. So it's something that I've been really, it's been such a joy to discover that over my posting in Kuwait, and I've felt very honoured to have the opportunity to celebrate the links between Kuwaiti women and Australian women and women from all over the world that we see in society here.
The European Union gives women's empowerment a very important place in its policies and priorities. This year, the EU launched the Roadmap for Women's Rights to drive EU's gender equality agenda forward and to guarantee key principles and rights for all women and girls. We firmly believe that investing in women is a strategic investment in our societies and economies. Our commitment to women's empowerment is also reflected in our partnerships with other countries and regions. I'm delighted by the fact that Kuwait shares this genuine commitment to advance women's empowerment. Since the establishment of the EU delegation in 2019, we have enjoyed an excellent collaboration with the Kuwaiti government, the private sector, the academia, and the civil society in support of women's empowerment, which has resulted in many flagship projects and activities which we are proud of. The EU stands ready to share its experience and best practices and also to look at the challenges together. As a concrete example, we have co-organized with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other partners a conference to highlight the steps taken to promote Women, Peace and Security agenda, including establishment of the Kuwaiti National Committee on Women, Peace and Security in December 2023. Kuwait has increased its efforts to include women in key positions within the army, police, coast guard and judicial sectors.
In today's bilateral relations, women's issues are no longer on the margins. In Kuwait, women now lead in areas such as training, leadership, governance, and entrepreneurship. Kuwaiti women have taken the lead in hosting and shaping international conferences focused on women's leadership and innovation. In October 2025, Kuwait will host the International Conference on Women Entrepreneurship and Leadership to foster collaboration and drive research in sustainable development. In early 2024, the Ministry of Social Affairs launched a national mentoring initiative to empower 30 Kuwaiti women leaders in fields such as technology, healthcare, and governance, a step aligned with the Kuwait Vision 2035. Since 2022, the Kuwaiti Women Economic Empowerment Platform has provided a vital space for dialogue, support, and opportunity, enabling women to access global networks and resources, expanding their reach and influence. These efforts reflect a broader movement. Kuwaiti women have not only benefited from international cooperation, but they have also been instrumental in shaping it. Through joint events, cultural exchanges, and Ramadan initiatives, women now stand not only as participants, but as public figures, diplomatic voices, and key representatives of the Kuwaiti identity on the global stage. They spoke not only of political rights, or social progress, or statistics. They spoke of dignity, of presence, of meaning. Each of them saw in Kuwaiti women a story worth telling, a story rooted in struggle, shaped by resilience, and carried forward with clarity and pride. A journey that did not begin by chance and was never built for display. It was earned, word by word, step by step, generation by generation. And as Kuwait celebrates this national occasion, we do not simply mark a date on the calendar.
Here in Kuwait who celebrating the Kuwait Women's Day, and what you achieve become our inspiration. Especially recently, we celebrating our Emancipation Days on April 21st. Fought by our heroine. We call it Ibu Kartini. I think the same spirit of the two countries on giving the rights to women much better, and hopefully in the future we can also enjoy more rights for women. And lastly, of course, that women cannot enjoy the rights without being supported by men. So now we are campaigning he for she. We usually campaign for she for she, now he for she also. And hopefully in 2020, in 2030, we'll see the planet 50-50 will be realized in many countries, including in Kuwait, meaning that more women can get more rights in all sectors of the affairs and the life.
We listen to the voices that echoed across embassies, parliaments, classrooms, and homes. We reflect on what it means for a woman to lead without letting go of who she is. We remember those who paved the way, even when the road was invisible. And above all, we believe that which began on the 16th of May is still unfolding, still growing, still shaping a future where leadership is not a privilege, but a reflection of those ready to rise, and those who never stopped believing they could.